Bada bing, bada boom.
Yo,
What's going on?
Yo,
what's up, guys?
what is up?
Chilling, man. How you guys doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
That's
Back
what's up,
on
man.
for another stream. We've been doing these monthly, and this is especially exciting one to welcome yourself on. Those
Yeah,
of you
my pleasure
tuning
to be
in,
here, man.
I bet you know this name. Bet you've heard this voice here and there.
Just a
Yeah,
little bit, right?
yeah. I'm excited. I'm doing great. Ryan, what's going on in your world?
We talked about this on some other streams, and I was kind of joking with exercise before you came on, Wales, about how like there's ever time for Hexicans to not care about overall health and wellness. It's typically at the bottom of a bear, I'd have to imagine. But in my
Yeah,
world,
yeah,
I work with a lot of different people, a lot of different professions in the health and wellness space. And, I just had someone sign up with me who is a regional director of a healthcare chain. So I have interesting feedback from a lot of interesting people over many, many states in the country and out of the country. And we're like 5 to 6 years away from like a healthcare collapse when it comes to leverage in the system. We
right,
were right there with COVID,
yeah.
and where we've been right on the razor thin edge as it pertains to staffing shortages, as it pertains to the obesity epidemic, everything going on. So my world's kind of like, it's great because the program's got a 95% success rate, but it's all existing in the realm of like this train's going at the cliff a million miles an hour, and I'm just like trying to
right.
cool. I'm like cooling down the engine and the brakes a little bit in hopes that they're going to
Jeez.
work, but it don't matter. So there's never been a
Yeah,
better time outside of like building finance to get your health in order, because healthy people, we're in trouble too. If you got in an accident and you have a 2-week wait to
yo,
the ER, you're just as fucked as anybody else, man. Like
yeah.
healthy
It
people
doesn't
are going to have
matter.
problems too. Yeah, or your loved
Yeah.
ones. Like everybody's in
If you
trouble.
don't
So
know how to like take care of yourself, literally, you are screwed. That's
it
2022
don't
in
matter
in a
what the price
nutshell.
chart's doing. It don't
Yeah, it
matter.
don't matter. It don't matter. If you don't know, that means you gotta find somebody that does. And that is a tall order nowadays. And I feel like
Yeah,
it
it's tough,
is.
man. The industry is riddled with bullshit, a lot of smoke and mirrors, and of course, they make a lot of money. And once again, we don't need to turn this stream into that because I have a lot of questions that are outside of it. But
Sure. I
that's what's
mean,
going on in my world, man. There's a lot
look,
of
a lot of people don't
craziness.
know. A lot of people don't know, but I'm like a workoutaholic. I like fucking run 10 miles for fun.
Oh,
So
Love to hear that.
nice.
Love to
yeah,
hear that.
yeah. I just don't talk about it much. 'Cause who the fuck, I don't show myself. Who's gonna listen
Yeah,
to me? You know
yeah,
what I mean? I'm not even gonna show myself like Ryan
yeah,
here. So,
yeah. Trust
it's
me,
like,
I look good.
yeah, yeah. You
Trust
got
me.
it. Well, you know what it is? It's kind of funny because I remember when I first started running, man, I hated it. Because you're not used to it,
Yeah.
and the funny thing about that frame of mind and just taking my mind frame back to that point in time is that everything is kind of like that. Anything
Yeah,
that's new, when you start out doing it, you're gonna not like it. And this is something that I think is applicable to woof, you name it. And that's why I think it's always important to hone in on the importance of taking care of yourself. Cause I know when I wasn't doing that, man, life was different.
Yeah. The
hmm
mindset's a lot more fragile. People forget
Yeah.
that. A lot of Hexicans are seeing that right now. I hate to say it. I have to imagine
yeah,
a lot of
Well,
them
we
are in
don't
a tough
know it
spot.
though. I feel like we don't know it, because it's not like we're made aware of it. If you're not
Yeah.
really introspective, I don't feel like you're gonna like. And there's levels to that, right? Because everybody isn't paying attention to themselves, even if they
Yeah.
think they are. You know what I mean?
Plus, the
So
general consensus is like that's kind of the norm. So
yeah.
you're so used to existing in that headspace, in that kind of just the cultural climate is that. So breaking out of
Mhm.
it is inherently more difficult when the
Right.
expectations culturally are, hey, don't worry about any of that nonsense, right? Let's just come do this instead. So to your point, yeah, it's like it's definitely an acquired taste, but once you have it, it's real tough to break it, man. It really gives you an extra
Yes.
layer of competitiveness when moments like what we're feeling right now, not only in hacks, but in general, the macro environment, you need to have an edge, man. You need to have your shit in order, both financially, but also mindset wise with health. And I don't know, man, there's some tough people out there mentally and smart people out there mentally who are very out of shape, but I just say, why not do both? That's all.
You know what it is? I
yeah.
think it's I don't know. This is just my personal opinion. I think it's just belief system. You know, because like for me, uh, like I just give you my little backstory. When I was in high school, like I played baseball up until I finally started playing football in an organized fashion, like pads and
Yeah.
all that. And when you play football in an organized fashion, that means you're doing like real strenuous physical activity. And baseball is nothing like that. You know, so even though I could play baseball all day, do two a days, play 3, 4 games in a row, you know, all positions, all kinds of shit, run and throw and all, you know, when you're focusing your effort on something like playing football for a whole game where you're starting and going and it's not like baseball where you're going but you're not really going, you know what I mean, unless it's like
Yeah.
unless you're in the outfield and it's a ball's getting hit, you know, in between two positions, you're not really busting your ass to do anything, you know. And even in the infield you just got to have very fast reflexes, and that's natural. You either got it or you do not. So you know there's not much work to do in that regard except figure out ways to calibrate your mechanics and how you move. And that's not really like something that involves like that's not really something that you can like make it faster, so to speak, outright, like you can running. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that's more of a mechanical thing. So you got to
Yep.
figure out how your body moves best doing whatever it is you got to do. So those are just a couple different anecdotes, right? But the whole thing about it is that you got to really just take a look. You know, most people aren't even willing to look. And, you know, here we are getting all high and mighty, talking about different layers and levels. But that's just, you know, how quickly things can get complex, right? And that's why when you really think about things like crypto and you think about like where you have your money, you got to really understand what you're doing from the very, very basic level of what the mission is and why you're doing it. And, you know, and this is something I talk about a lot, like the why. Like, why do we take care of our bodies? Because it makes us feel good. You know, it's just very
Mhm.
simple. You know, like when I think about what you know what I want to eat or whatever, like I'm thinking about what the impact is going to be on my body after I eat that. Am I going to feel good? Am I going to feel like that's how I corral what I'm going to be doing? Because otherwise, you know, baby back ribs all day every day. Why not?
Yeah.
Right. So those are the kinds of things that, you know, that there requires discipline for sure, and that is just wanting it. And that's why I think about the negative. Like, do I really want to deal with that shit? And you know, sometimes I'm gonna say yeah, but most of the time I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, it's a delicate thing, and
Hmm.
that's why we've been doing these streams for a while. And the mechanics of nutrition and the mechanics, not only just the mechanics of it, but really the psychological backpinnings that allow
Yeah.
people to just do it. People forget, right?
Mhm.
Like when we talk about success rate in my industry, it's like when Richard speaks about asset prices, all we really want is like the price to go up. Like that's it, right? It's all
Hmm.
you really care about at the end of the day. So with health and wellness, all you really care about, people come to me and say, I want to do this. All they really care about is success rate. Can you maintain the blood panel, the body fat percentage over a long period of time or forever, ideally, obviously, and
Right.
exist in American culture on a calorie count that actually makes
Yo,
sense, right?
I'm
Because you
Yeah.
don't
sorry,
actually
but
know what you're doing if you're on too low of a calorie
that
count,
shit
et
is
cetera.
almost impossible. I don't know where you guys live, but I
What,
Man.
to do all
feel
of it?
like it's almost impossible, and I live in New York, man.
Yeah.
It's not impossible, but it could definitely
It's
be. It could be the
It's
mirage of it
tough.
could be
almost.
seen to be impossible
I
based on what
feel
the
like
industry
it's
puts out.
almost impossible. It's not impossible, but it's almost impossible. That's what I feel like.
Well, think of it this way, man. When the majority of my clientele are females, right, age 40 to
Uh-huh.
65, I used to work primarily with men, and they have a success rate of 95%. And these are not
Wow,
She-Hulks, right? They're just
amazing.
normal women
That's
walking
amazing,
around.
though. That's
And
amazing.
the most amazing part of the mechanics of it are, right? You got to lead with the psychology and then back
Hmm.
with the numbers, right? Because that's all
Hmm.
people really care about is you're just convincing yourself, whether it be with food or activity levels,
Yeah.
to do something. That's it. Like washing your hands or brushing your teeth. Why do we do this? The mechanics make sense, right? We make that agreement. So when you line up the mechanics, it makes sense, and you understand how metabolism works as a machine, not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just adaptive.
Right.
When I have clients that are female, right, they're just normal Americans typically American eating anywhere from, honestly, man, I've noticed, and exercise, you'll appreciate this. Remember I told you exercise when 2020 hit, the cultural shifts that happened, right? And the average calorie intake, Wales, that I had clients want to hang out at after the weight loss was done, right? So keep that in mind, right? We'll do weight loss phase, and then they want to maintain the weight loss at X calorie count. The range was 22 to 2,300 at the low end, up to 2,800 a day. That was the range. Now, 2 years later, Uber Eats kind of ruling the world now. You have cultural expectations that are set, pressures with family and friends. It's 2,500 to 2,800. I've noticed all my clients, and keep in mind, we can still maintain a healthy blood panel there, but that's the reality of the costs now of calories. Like when people tell me, "Oh, I could never eat that much," I'm like, "Bro, you're in the 80s right now. You think the box of cereal is $1? You are way off. There's a 5x increase that happened, and you're still not willing to check the price points." So once you get through these barriers and understand that there is a way to maintain these things on the calorie counts I talked about, things get really different and exciting from the persona and the psyche of the way people think about it. But to be fair, I can't take these women up to 6,000 calories a day. There are diminishing returns to this, but the future is very bright when I got a 60-year-old woman eating 2,700 calories a day, going for a walk with her dog. And after she had lost 20, 30 pounds, that's exciting. That shows us the future is bright. But yeah, man, there's a storm coming.
Crazy.
People think the macro environment's bad. When the hospitals stop working, you don't care about your bank account anymore. Just like with there's food shortages.
You know what's crazy? When the hospitals stop working, so many people are gonna be just screwed. I don't, I think one thing that just goes unnoticed in this country is how many people visit the hospital on a daily basis. Dude, every time I go to that thing, it is jam packed. It don't matter where, what country, what state, what time of day, what hospital. It's gonna be packed.
Business is booming, man. You understand?
Yeah.
I have like 10 nurses I'm working with in all various states. I have healthcare directors. I have just really interesting positions in the industry. And you're like, listen, nobody's talking about obesity rising. That is like 90% of the comorbidities going on, as well as just the actual leverage pressure going in the system. And to your point, not only supply chain disruptions that we saw, but what if for some reason people can't get their diabetes medication? What if we can't get high blood pressure medication going out?
A lot of people are gonna die just because of
that. Absolutely, man. So. And that's why they'll tell me, "Oh, it's not my problem. I'm healthy." I'm like, first off, I see the trajectory people are going. You give it another 5 to 7 years, trust me. Like the probability, if I had to chart this out, it ain't good.
We're gonna all revert back to 50 plus, life expectancy.
Yeah, dude. Do you see if it dropped recently? Oh my god.
Nah, I haven't.
And that's not supposed to happen. We're more educated now, So
yeah, exactly. And what's funny is that we're all saying it's okay, basically. That's what's crazy to me.
Well, listen, you'll appreciate this with the CDC. They haven't put out updated numbers on obesity since 2020.
Of course not. Why would they?
It's not the priority.
Well, not even that. Not only is it not the priority, they don't want to highlight how much it hasn't been because the numbers have gotten so bad. Look, when I'm outside, because now I get to go into the office to fucking work. Holy mother of fucking
you look around, you're like 80% of the people around me are probably in that BMI category. Yeah.
Huge. Yeah, fuck being. Look, I'm not even gonna try to be, fucking politically correct by it. These people out here rolling around and they need to check themselves because they fucking walking around with death. They're literally carrying around death, and they don't even know it. This is the most. That's the most dastardly thing about the American diet. It's there to kill you. There's no other way to put that.
Yeah, the trend is so bad right now. This was one of the things we talked about. I don't know if it was last episode or the one before, but it was China passed US's longevity.
Wow.
And there was a funny comment on the thread that the more accurate description of that is actually America dropped below China's longevity or mortality rate, right? Which is true, and it's it's bad, man.
Wow. I'm shocked. I had no idea. I hadn't really been like, even though I know all this stuff, I really don't follow the data. I mean, I figured just one day it would just be like, oh, yep, unsurprising, because I already expected it to happen because it's obvious.
Yeah.
Because people are just so, unfortunately, mind numbed
Yeah.
to just how they're living, and unfortunately, how they're living is numbing their minds as well. So it's kind of like a double whammy, And I know you guys know all about it, so knock yourselves out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm so excited to ask you some questions on the other stuff. So I don't want to, because I talk about this stuff like 10 hours a day with everybody all the time. But
all good. It's all
I'll say-
related. It's all
I'll say
related.
it is, man. It really is. Like
Yeah,
a
it
strong
really
financial
is.
mindset is forged from having your other pillars in order.
100%, man. Look,
And-
I've been working out. Look, I changed my life like August 6, 2006. I like remember the day because I used to even smoke cigarettes. I was in the military. I was in Iraq. I was deployed, all kinds of shit. No, this was 2004. August 6, 2004 was a day. I remember because of A64. So everything, no more cigarettes, no more craziness. Like everything that day just ceased, right? So I'm not saying people gotta do stuff cold turkey, but I haven't reverted, and all I've done is improve my lifestyle since that point. I really thought that was the improvement, and this is how we begin, just like we begin crawling, right? Even when it comes to understanding the market, it's all the same. We gotta start somewhere, right? And the best place for the new person to start is by understanding the relationship between the US dollar and everything else, because that's pretty much the majority of how markets really relate to one another. How is capital moving around, right? And the funny thing about it is that it's hard to think of it that way, but that's pretty much what's going on. People take dollars, they take pounds, they take euros, they take whatever currency, and they buy stuff with it. So if the value of a currency is going down, that typically means that the value of things priced in that currency are going up, right? And that's a whole lot of words to say that if the dollar's going down, bananas is going up in value, and so on and so forth. But the reason I explain it that way is because there's other currencies than just the dollar. And you have to understand, if you're going to be in this business of making money with money, the most important thing to understand is ratios, right? If you don't understand ratios, I mean, you got Hexa BTC, you got Hexa Ethereum, you got Hexa US dollar, you got Hexa Hedron, you got Hexa Maxi, you got Hexa all these things. And then we're going to have PLS and then PLSX. So all these things as well. I mean, you got to understand how to read that. What is that saying, right? And for the average person, they don't even understand that's what they got to think of. And guys, give me a second because I just
go grab your food.
Yeah, I realized we ran like crazy.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, exercise. I've been noticing that calorie ranges in general have shifted to the upside. And I notice a lot of clients just organically shift on their own because they see success on a weight loss phase, right? Let's say it's on 1,800 calories a day, but they realize their success rate is going to be higher at 2,000 or 2,100 on a weight loss phase, plus the short amount of time that takes to get them to really where they want to be after the weight loss is done, which they're realizing over time that it's really probably closer to 26, 27, 28, 100 a day. And so that has been really crazy to see because that's only a 3-year shift. And that's like a 200 to 300 calorie increase. That's a pretty big deal. I feel like these things are supposed to move pretty small or pretty slowly.
And these are the numbers that you're like winding up at for their maintenance, or this is like what they're looking for. Like when you say you notice this shift.
When I say I've noticed the shift, what I really mean by that is in general, I'm noticing fewer and fewer clients finding stability in their life on calorie counts below 2,500 a day. And by that, I mean a good success rate, being able to manage lifestyle stuff, AKA, food with a significant other, food with a family, eating out, societal based, demands. So once again, could culture change this? Could inflation also change this? Yes, I think it is already changing this. People are eating out less because they have less money. They're going out less and doing those things. But in general, it's almost alarming that it hasn't stopped quicker.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, where are you people getting the money from to do this in the first place? But number two, it's just been wild because, once again, fundamentally, I care about bringing down body fat and blood panel first and foremost. If that means and once again, if the blood panel suggests that higher sodium cannot be tolerated because of blood pressure or whatever, then we don't even have the option. I tell them, like, listen, think of that as a privilege. Being able to go that high in a calorie count is a privilege until you can't do it. Because then it's like your blood panel is going to wreck you. You have to cut the food out. Like that is the wrong kick in the butt you want, but the clients who are active, have a great blood panel, et cetera, shifting them up to 2,800. This is the game theory behind it. I hate to say this, but they're going to eat that food anyways, even if I'm not around to help. So I'd rather them build control around it and awareness around it. So that way they can maybe manage that intake and awareness over the long term much better, versus me saying, no, you can't go above 2,400. What's wrong with you? And then they're just going to go above 2,400 when I'm done talking to them. Or they'll tell me to screw off, one of the two, So that's what I've noticed big time, as well as I've seen with all the pressure going on from the macro environment, right? Higher bills, people are strained on money, et cetera. What I've really noticed is the relationship issues are coming into play big time here. Like, this is like the final boss of dieting. When you have a significant other who unfortunately is not in a growth phase, as maybe my client is, where they're losing weight and feeling great and going through this growth in their life, right? And the significant other isn't supportive of that, or they're not quite ready to do it themselves, and they're typically negatively impacting that process. I can't just ask people to divorce people left and right. Like, dude, that's the final boss, So I typically work through that quite a bit. You're starting to realize I don't really do too much nutrition here at the end of the day. It's a lot of the other stuff, right?
Well, yeah, shit. That's what me and you like ended up identifying, I think, like in some of our first streams together as like being more important. We were like we can yell these other like actual like truisms till the cows come home and just say like yell, eat less, move more. Like, yes, that is what like our fundamental like underlying like principles are built from. But yeah, it's the other part where like shit hits the fan.
Could you bring up Marina's comment real quick?
Who? Sorry.
D Marino. He asked the question. Yeah, he said, "Did you people lose weight with increased calorie intake?" Yes. Remember, when people lose weight, they're almost always coming off of an increased calorie intake, right? It's just most of the time when they're done losing weight, they say, "Screw this, I'm out." Right? They stop tracking their calories, they stop eating healthy, whatever. And then they overeat a lot typically and gain the weight back. So you're already coming off of an increased calorie intake. My clients do it with control, so they don't regain the weight back. That's the caveat there, right? That's what we're essentially building is, responsibility and awareness and control, and that skill set of being aware of the price points of food when you're not trying to lose weight, because that's how you're going to maintain the weight loss once you achieve it, is understanding those parameters and understanding the charts and how the data works and how it should look, when you're doing so. So keep that in mind, right? Whenever people are like, oh, why are you guys tracking calories after weight loss? Like, that's stupid. It's like, it's really not. That's what the rest of your life's looking like. The weight loss should be short-term if you know what you're doing. Honestly, it should not be more than, typically outside of 3 to 4 months max, I would have to imagine on most people, if not much, tighter than that, maybe in a month or two. So most people are always in a surplus, in some form of a surplus after a weight loss phase, or they're just hanging out at a very low calorie count forever and they're at maintenance and they're just kind of stuck there, which is not typically an ideal place to be either in American culture, that's for sure. But it's been increasingly alarming that it's been basically that way everywhere else too. Remember, we talked about the third world countries that are also starting to have issues with obesity quite a bit. So it's like not even just America.
Every country is following suit in those metrics. There's some like Asian countries that are decent. Like I think Japan's decent. There's a few others like that, but yeah. So Marino, like the way I read this, did people lose weight with increased calorie intake? Obviously not in a surplus, but Ryan added the actual context there for when people come off of like a weight loss phase, what's going on. But yeah, he sees some pretty crazy outcomes where people can maintain at like, what were you saying there? 26? 25?
Honestly, because like I've never been like, hey, let's do an experiment, right? And see where the upper limits of this is. But the point is we pick it up with the data quick. Like
Yeah.
we'll know if we're reaching the diminishing returns of
Yeah.
where somebody's metabolism can't support increasing BMR anymore.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think I've seen someone go as high as 2,900 to 3,000
Yeah.
calories a day, no problem.
Yeah.
And these are females age 30. I would say I haven't had any in the 60 years old range get that high, but definitely in the 30 to late 40s easy. And these are not bodybuilders or active women in that regard. Like you could go that high, no problem, if you're very active. I mean, look at some of the 40, 50, 60-year-old athletes. They're eating a lot of food.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not telling you about it.
Yeah.
It's not widely talked about, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
such a useful metric to have. Like if it doesn't really take a lot of time for you out of your day to track calories and like macros from those calories, go ahead and do it. Like in a pretty comfortable place with how you conduct like your fitness and your nutrition day in and day out, and you're pretty steady and you can kind of more or less push yourself up or down in whichever direction you want. You probably don't need to do it every single day, but if you're like, hey, why the hell is the weight on the scale going up or going down? This is the number one driver. You can look right here. Just like if you wanted to look at these are the two guys you want to hear that analogies for the big Forex and capital markets for. So I'm not going to try and make the analogy, but there's good, really, really good metrics that can indicate, I'll just say like overall liquidity. That's one that like Arthur Hayes has drawn eyes to or like pointed to as like just a big indicator of like a general trend for big markets moving in one way or the other. It's just such a useful number to know if there's more liquidity in the system, if you have more calories in the system. Such a good number, such a good metric to have on hand.
I mean, you understand when these people first talk to me, they think I'm like a lying sack of shit shaman, because it's like, it sounds pretty on paper, but that's why I have the charts. It's like, listen, when these women see their average weigh-in stay flat over a course of 6 weeks and we bring their BMR from, let's say 2,000 a day to 2,700, that's game changing. Your whole social life changes at 2,700 calories a day. And don't get me wrong, I live in Texas now. I used to be in New York, and you could still clear 3,000 calories, no effing problem. When I came down here, I got wrecked by Tex-Mex. It's so good, dude. Oh my God. I eat 3,000 a day and I could easily go over. But
I eat 3,000 in a sitting down there on the island down in Brownsville,
Texas got its own problems, man.
Right on the border of Texas and Mexico. Oof.
Dude, I went to the state fair for the first time. Holy F. Yeah. Dude, Texas it's got some problems coming soon as pertains to the healthcare networks.
It's dense.
New York's not far behind for its own reasons, but man, dude, I love Texas.
The entire country is in a shit. I mean,
it's so bad.
It's just a mess waiting to just become evident to everybody. Just like everything else is becoming evident. Like right now, everybody's realizing that the financial system is corrupt. And
what's going to happen, dude? I mean, you already know this as it pertains to the Fed, and we'll get into that in a bit. There's going to be a lot of finger pointing. There's going to be a lot of rug pulls on people's relationships. You already see it happening. So what's going to happen with healthcare is, because I was talking to Exercise when you're gone about the final boss, which is like relationship issues and societal issues, right? When I have somebody who is growing and their significant other partner is not, that's a difficult thing. I can't ask somebody to just divorce somebody, even though that they are growing apart. So you're going to see when the healthcare network goes down, and when it goes down, I mean, is really just, it's just like the order books, right? It's just the liquidity is not there anymore. Right. So you have a higher weight, just like with shortages. Be like, well, there's no shortages. Like, yes, there is. The prices are higher. What do you think happens when there's a shortage? Prices go up. So when your wait time is longer and your healthcare premiums keep going up, and they can only subsidize that shit for so long, that's your shortage right there. And the point is going to be a lot of finger pointing, and a lot of people are going to get upset, and it's going to be really, really, it's just going to be a really ugly situation, unfortunately. So this decade, the 2020 is the time to prepare. If you're not prepared, there's going to be a lot of wreckage happening, and you don't want you and your loved ones in the middle of it. As much as you can, some people are on medication, they just can't do without. So get 60-day supply, do what you can when it comes to that stuff. But in general, like,
people need to start learning to find natural remedies for whatever these medications supposedly are remedying, because they're clearly not if you're still taking the medication. Just a thought.
Oh, I mean, dude, we could be here all night about big pharma and talking about the reliance on medication. And dude,
I pay to not take pills, bro. I'm not with that. You know what I mean?
Do you know how many stories I have of clients who have had terrible experience with doctors recommending just like, I already told Exercise I want to start a new business in the near future over the next year, which is going to be just bringing these people on anonymously or not, and interviewing them, people were either directly working in healthcare, because there's no one that's doing it. Call it what it is. It's the whistleblower channel of the healthcare system. That's what's going to happen to give these people
that
a
would
voice.
be insane.
Bro,
Could you imagine that?
I can. I hear it every day. I'm like, how in the hell is this going on?
Because, I mean, do you guys realize the hospitals are basically like jails? You know, once you're in there, you can't just walk out.
Yeah, there's no, you got to understand, like, doctors are not the right profession to fix what I'm talking about. There needs to be a whole separate industry for it, right? It's the preventative space. The preventative space is a small amount of dietitians who haven't updated their worldview in like 50 fucking years, right? So once again, success rate, right? So if the dietitian screams, go eat healthy and be active, the success rate is 0% because this guy's a truck driver and he's going to slap you if he hears you telling him to go eat healthy 3 meals a day. I'm sorry, the problem's going to keep getting worse.
3 servings of green.
You know what I mean? Like, the problem is going to continue to get worse. Like,
but this is the equivalent of people trying to value things in dollars.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know you hear me, but it's hard for you to wrap your head around it, just like it's hard for some people to really grasp the fact that it's, look, to me, the easiest thing to do now that I've done it is lose weight. But do you realize how impossible that is for some people?
Yeah, you have to completely remap the thought process. It's all about the order of operations. Like, when you speak about the dollar, you have to totally start from a unique start point to get somebody thinking differently about it. And it's the same thing with what I do here. When you remap the process and the order of operations, which you target the problem, right? We need to update our worldview in this space. If we don't, and we keep saying that,
in all aspects of life. Look, let me tell you guys something. When I first decided to update my worldview as far as my health went, you know, back in 2004, that triggered something, right? And that trigger led to me eventually deciding to update my worldview as far as my finances went, because, you know, you clearly need money to survive. And once you start doing the math, you realize that the world isn't set up for you to survive off of just going to school and all that BS that you're sold. So you, so you got to figure something else out real quick. So what that leads to is you trying to figure out what your path is, right? In one way, shape, or form. Like, how the hell am I going to make some money? Is it this way? Is it that way? Like, what way am I comfortable doing it? Does this make sense for me? Blah, 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 blah. Because it's your effort, right? No matter what it is, that side hustle is something that got to make sense for you, period. Because if it's something that requires you to have big network and you're an introvert, how are you going to pull that off?
Yeah.
You can't. That's how, right? You got to completely flip mode who you are, and that's not going to take a week. Yeah. So not really a high probability of success, right? You got to find those avenues, those paths that are going to lead you to the high probability of success. And this is why, you know, even when I talk about something as ridiculous as picking what I'm going to eat, right? What am I thinking about? What is going to lead me to that highest probability of success? That's really the same thing as me saying, do I want to feel like death after, or do I want to just taste this yummy, delicious treat right now? Right? That's the question. That's ultimately
there's diminishing returns in the mindsets of Americans too, because once you get to, I call it like this, once you have enough bad experience levered up, right? When I'm working with a 40-year-old, they've had decades of bad experiences, right? So you understand it's a very delicate issue at this point. We're reaching break point where if I come in and give them the final bad experience, if you will, right, to this weight loss experience, they'll probably never revisit it again. And then your success rate is 100% a zero forever, right? And that's what dietitians and doctors, the old guard, are typically, for the most part, doing. So if they don't update their worldview fast, man, like real fast, like, and even then this trend is like, I wish they would chart obesity on the candlestick chart. I really wish they would, so we could track it. Seriously, I wish the way we're tracking that, the Fed and all this stuff, and people are becoming much more financially savvy, which is great. The dissemination of information is so good now. They need to do that shit with obesity, but it would scare too many people. People like, oh my God, finger pointing. What the hell? What do we do?
You know what it is, man? I got to be honest with you. I talk to my buddies from college about this shit all the time because I've thought about this for a long time because it's so obvious what the problem is. We know it's the fucking food. We know it. We all know it, and nobody wants to address it. Period. Nobody. How do I know? I got fucking friends, man, that they'll ask me about any fucking thing else except how I went from 250 pounds to 160 fucking 5. They don't ask me shit about that.
Well, you got culture, right? Culture is this big, fucking massive wave that you cannot be stopped. Right now, it's been building over decades. Cultural layers of expectations of what we do, right? It's not acceptable for someone to take your credit card and just start spending it, but it is acceptable for them to say, hey, come on, just have a few drinks. You're still doing that diet thing. Like, come on, like whether it be a significant other, it could be a friend, it could be whoever. You have the culture wave, you have the lack of education. Obviously, it's a whole other conversation, right? There's no education on this stuff. We have fucking iPhone 16s in 12-year-olds' hands, but we can't let them learn how to track some damn calories. Are you kidding me, bro? You know what I mean? You hop on Fortnite all night. They can't do this stuff.
But they can decide on some crazy shit that they don't even understand. Sure,
dude. The list goes on, right? So you have cultural, the cultural like pressure, like just think of it as like pressuring you down, holding you down to get started. The lack of education, and then you also have lack of mentorship in the industry itself. There's no 100%. Real avenues. To be fair, people like where are they going to go? Like you either get lucky and find a good mentor, or you get wrecked. Just like crypto, honestly.
Yeah.
How easy is it to lose your way?
Yes. Finance is no different. Listen, when I got into finance, I networked my way into the so-called top job, bro. I did that for 1 year and never again. I had no interest in doing it. Pointless. Because I realized that it was just like everything. I had just got out the military, just went through college, and realized all this hustle and bustle, all this fuss and muss to just end up in the same position as I was before. No, nothing, whatever. That is just subservient to some schmuck. Pretty much it. That's the life of the employed individual. Right?
Well,
this is why financial freedom is critical.
I do want to dive into finances now, if you were all okay. I could talk about health and wellness stuff forever. I want to shut my ass up.
Oh, no, it's fine because I feel like I'm going back and forth. I'm sorry if I keep dragging you guys.
No, you're good. You're good. I just love talking about this stuff. Because there's one thing I wanted to start with, and you made a good comment about ratios, Wales. For some reason, and this is something I've noticed, and I've talked with some, I would say decently prominent Hexicans who also like didn't notice this for some reason. It was kind of fascinating where Richard wouldn't post about this publicly, like directly to his Twitter or some sort of channel, but he would reply to people as a comment, right, to someone fudding Hex about the price coming down 80% or whatever. And he's like, hey, the Hex versus BT chart, here it is. Like, what's wrong with you? Are you retarded? Just look at this chart. This is the only ratio you care about. And I'm thinking from a game theory standpoint, this man is in it for glory, wants the highest appreciating asset. That's Bitcoin. He needs to beat it. So why would he care about any other chart but the Bitcoin chart, period? Everything's down right now. Of course, everything's going to come down if the dollar's ripping, right? That's not a surprise. So I'm curious about your feedback on why. So 2 questions. Why are people not paying attention to this? Or are they, and they just don't care or not, as giving it the value that I think it deserves in the current, macro environment we're looking at here?
Yeah, I think it's probably more the latter than the former because a lot of people just get hell bent on looking at things versus the dollar, and that's really a detriment because the dollar is really, while we know what it is and we get paid in it and got to do stuff in it and all that, at the end of the day, it just serves its purpose as a conduit of value in that respect, right? As a store of value, it serves no purpose. Nobody's holding dollars. Nobody. And just in case anybody wants to be smart about it, here's a little fact you might not know. Finance 101, first lesson you were taught is time value of money. But what's the time value of money? Time value of money states $1 today is not $1 tomorrow. A cent today is not a cent tomorrow. Therefore, you wake up every day to waste time, whether you want to realize it or not. That is a fact. Because those dollars you're working for are worth less successively every damn day. How about that?
Yep. Well, I mean, you can see it. You see it on the chart too. If anybody wants to, argue it, it's been on a downtrend ever since its inception and off the gold standard.
Right. But these are things that people try to somehow conjecture against being true. I don't know why or how, but data's there, right? So if we're at a point in time when, and I've said this previously, maybe you guys have heard it, maybe not, but I think this is really so profound. You know, we live in a time where you can get what's what the damn price for Hex is right now. Hold on, let me see. We can get
Sitting on trend line
3.3.
right now. I think.
Yeah, it's 3.3. It's 3.3 cents. 3.3 cents for Hex. Okay, so 100 divided by 3.3. Now let's see how many Hex we get per dollar. Approximately, we get 30 Hex per dollar right now. Now, that's, multiply that by 25,000, right? And that'll tell you how much you need for a T-share, right? What is that? $7,757 basically, right? And all of a sudden, you've created this thing that produces value for up to 15 years. And if you do go 15 years, you can divide that $750 by 3. And all of a sudden, you gave yourself a crypto printer. Boom. Free of charge. All you had to do was get your Hex, stake it, and here you have this store of value that lasts you at least 15.2 years, right? Now, what the curious thing about this fact is that it's something that you can measure value against holistically. Now, what I mean is that you're going to take Hex divided by the value of bananas. You can take Hex and divide it by the value of candles. You can take Hex and divide it by the value of pizza, a Big Mac, the dollar, Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold. Knock yourself out. Tacos, burritos, it doesn't matter. You can make an infinite number of charts. And this is why it's important to understand these ratios, because in between all of those ratios, there is this thing called the dollar. And we can't escape that, because this is how people transact value. And this is why it's important to be able to pull that thing out of there, because this is how you know when there's real value and when there isn't. If everything in Hex terms versus everything else outside of the dollar is priced high, right, all time, relative to, lows and previous highs and all that, then it's probably looking expensive. If it's down relative to previous prices and all-time highs and whatever have you, then it's probably really cheap, right? Just look at it across the board versus other things. And I mean, this really gives you a very great answer as far as relative value and whether there's an opportunity that you might be interested in or not, right? Because this is what we're ultimately looking for if we're playing the long game. I'm personally playing the long game, because when I look at this, I think to myself, well, Bitcoin, what if I would have just bought, that $1,000 worth of Bitcoin when it was $1 or 10 cents or whatever, right? So it's just all those things just to say, buy actual crypto. Don't engage in stuff that has middlemen involved.
Fair enough. Yeah. I just sometimes I wonder why people don't pay attention to a more fair way to look at, the actual movements of Hex, and where I would say, the fact that Richard posts about it a lot and like actively shows people it, it's like why are we not paying more attention to something like this, right? It's getting close to either a breakout or a breakdown on this pattern. Like we're probably, I think, 60 days away or so. And that's why I tweeted about that and basically said, like, listen, something's going to happen here. It's either going to be the ugliest breakdown on the bull flag, or it's going to be the sickest break up. There's not really an in between. And that tells you one thing, that means Hex could be flat and Bitcoin could be tanking. Either way, that's still good, because it's not against the US dollar, of course. But either way, like that to me is an important trigger that I think the US dollar will not hint people at, is if the chart has not already been honest, right? It's down 95%. Like you're not going to get a better deal than getting around there. So obviously it's kind of obvious, but I just think that's like maybe a chart that pulls out, it's a chart that pulls out less emotions. Let's word it that way, right? When we talk about the mindset of the investor and people in Hex, when you're looking at the Hex versus Bitcoin chart, it kind of removes some of those emotions. I think it really does, and I wish people would focus on it a little bit more. So I was curious your feedback on that, because I don't see really anyone posting or talking about it, which is kind of crazy to me. I mean, it's the prettiest chart out there outside of the Hex chart. I mean,
again, it's a function of how people look at the world. People just don't look at the world in Bitcoin terms, no matter what they say. Right?
Yeah.
Because this just goes to prove what's true. Right? Because, there's a lot of things that people say. But who cares? Because the fact of the matter is that the reaction makes it evident about what they care about. Right? And I think RH talks about this all the time. People care about number go up. But maybe what he doesn't specify in is that it's strictly in dollar terms. Right? Because that's ultimately what it becomes. People get sucked into that trap, not understanding the game that they're playing. And that's ultimately what it boils down to, in my opinion. Because until I realized the game I was playing, I wouldn't have been able to muster up the ability to educate so many people like I have. Like that's a real big thing. Like I can explain this crypto stuff to whoever in 5 seconds if I feel like it. The question is, how much do they know? Right? Because if they don't know a lot, then I have to explain more to them than otherwise. Because say, for example, you're a person that's never dealt with a cross-currency system. You can't understand pricing things in other currencies other than a dollar. To you, everything is just whatever it costs.
Yeah, I just figured there was at least, because I haven't seen it like anywhere. Like I've just been like, how has no one talked about this chart? Like,
yeah, well, that's the thing. It's not normal for people to think like that. It's really not. So the fact that they're not talking about it just goes to show that they really don't care about it, because otherwise they would be thinking about it.
Yeah, I guess it's just surprising, because I'm like, I don't know about you guys. Are you looking at this? Like,
yeah, very
he posts it to every person hating on Hex. He replies in the comments.
Yep.
And be like, no, I've never seen this. I'm like, what? How? Like his comments come up all the time when you're following him, unless you're following just like a shit ton of people. I don't know, like some of the nonsense. But like, you know what I mean? Like when he comments, it's not often. When it happens, he's like, we'll usually ratio the person or whatever. You know what I mean? So like it's obvious what he does. And I see it, and I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like,
yeah,
this is part of the cycle, part of the macro environment, which probably a good time to shift into that, man, because I know you called the DXY top. And I think in general, I want to play devil's advocate here, because I think obviously it could do whatever it's going to do, but outside of big events, it seems like you're of the conviction that it has topped. It could maybe go back up and double top, something like that, but you don't think it's going to go higher. And on the flip side, I think in a way also it's still kind of maintained its trend. It's still got that trend line. It hasn't broken out of it, but I wanted to see if you had changed that opinion at all, and if so, what was it that changed it that you think it could go higher?
Well, I'm not of the opinion that it's gonna go higher as of yet. Now when you look at it on a daily, I don't know if you guys want me to show charts or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Let me show a chart just so I can give you guys a visual and not just talk here. Where is this thing? There we go. All right. There we go. I don't know if you guys picked that up.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. So, okay. So on a daily basis, let me get rid of some stuff here. Actually, get rid of that. And yeah, that's good enough for now. Okay, so I have this little parabola channel that I was drawing out here. This parabola channel was containing price up until about last month. So about 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and price has fallen out of that parabola. Now, this is basically the same thing that's already happened to Hex and Bitcoin and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Everything took that same parabolic move upward, and once it falls out, it's pretty much it. And the other thing I want to kind of impose on you guys, at least show you guys. And this is on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
On a longer term basis, this could literally stop going down right here, 108.43. So the one thing that's peculiar about markets is that they can be structured a certain way. Let's say here at a point in time, just like I thought it was at that point in time when I called it, right?
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden, something could change fundamentally, and somebody would just come in and just buy it, and the next thing you know, we're at 115, and it's like there was no top. Does that make sense? Like, it's dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we got a top one day doesn't mean that's the top forever.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that next high can come in a month because the world just changed that drastically that quickly. Like, we just don't know. And it's just being mentally pliable enough to think like that. I mean, that is not easy. It took me a while to be able to say what I just said, because even being able to say that, it requires the ability to think is even possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's multiple
Yeah.
options. Like, I mean, there's also a lot on the table that's very dynamic, as you said,
Yeah.
that could impact things.
Yeah.
And like, it's interesting too. Like, even with the DXY really losing strength here, things like Bitcoin are still selling off, right? So it's not a guarantee either that market's going to correct, even if there was a pivot or something like that in the mix, which is really cool to know about as well. Like, to kind of, people are so focused on this like pivot as if it's going to change things, and I feel like it's just going to really trigger more capitulation at
You
first.
want to know what's funny? Yeah, you're 100% right. You're 100% right, because that's exactly what it did. Right? If we look at the stock market, let me just bring this damn.
Yeah, it's right. Typically marks it like there's some serious shit in the plumbing going on, the financial plumbing, right? Typically the bond markets, and we'll get into that in a bit with the ECB and what's been going on. But like, that's bad news bears, right? That means there's some serious fire sales going on pretty soon.
So let's talk about this real quick, and then we'll get back to the dollar. Just because you nailed it, right? The sentiment shifts so quickly. And price really reflects it because of the underpinning microstructure of how these markets move, or really how you can trade them is ultimately what it is. So as you guys can see, this whole year, this is 22, this is January 22, it's basically been a one-way trade down, and any rally has been sold, period. Like, this is just what we're seeing. You got down, up, sold, down, up, sold, down, up, sold, down, up again, sold, up, and looks like we're gonna probably hit a sell area up here again. We'll see, but you can feel the ebbs and flows of the market with these price gyrations, because I mean, last month the world was ending, right around here. This is literally a month ago, 3 weeks ago, middle of October. The world was literally ending. Then last week, everything was great again. Then it was looking like hell last week, and then now, a couple days of green, like, and it's only Monday. So I don't know. It's kind of wild when you think about just how people's energy changes with the price movement. It's like, man, it's really difficult for a lot of people to understand that they just got to step back and let the market do its thing.
Yeah, the information dissemination now is so fast
It's
that
instant.
now the Fed, and even Powell made a great comment about that. Like, now it used to be fiscal policy would be determined about what markets think is going to happen, and now it's just based on like preemptively what they think he's going to say.
Yeah.
They're trying to like.
What's funny? Hold on, because this is a funny thing. There was a point in time when nobody cared what they had to say, because A, they weren't saying shit, and B, they never had anything worth saying. So when did that change? Do you guys know when that changed?
I want to say.
Take a guess. You can guess. I'm confident you can guess.
After coronavirus.
No, before then. Way before then.
Is it Volcker? Everyone's referencing it.
Not that far back.
Was it the Great Financial Crisis, 08?
Yes.
That
makes sense.
Yes. Although what I will say to give credit to Hexercise a little bit is that until Volcker anybody at the Fed that was a chairman, like all those people were considered a consummate joke. They served no purpose. They never got anything right. Just like now, right?
Yeah.
The only difference now is that a lot of people believe that they actually do stuff, and it's just because of TV. Honestly, because we all know they don't do anything, and we all know that they get everything wrong. Like, we know that they don't do anything that has value. If you pay attention to the financial markets in any capacity, there's no way that you think that these people have value. Outside of that, you're going to believe whatever the media relays because you don't know any better, and that's fair enough. You can't knock a person that doesn't know for not knowing that they're being lied to. But if you're astute enough to know you're lied to in one aspect of this world, you should know that everything else is the same. So, right? Why would that be any different?
Yeah.
Is this like the phenomenon where enough people buy into it, so you have to buy into it to trade it?
No, because the thing about it is you have to understand where people are positioned, right? It's like, well, how did you know to buy all the way down here? A lot of people didn't know to buy down there, right? So you had to just understand that when it was happening in real time, the daily chart looked like this. Like, you had to understand that there was this negative divergence in existence, or positive divergence, excuse me, in existence, meaning that momentum was dying as price was going downward, even though you can see, right, that price is clearly going into the gutter.
Yeah.
But if you understand how things complete, as far as like the end of a move, in a way that's like kind of a knee-jerk reaction. I don't know if you guys can even understand what I'm saying. Like, so when a car crashes into a wall, it's instant.
Yep.
Right? And this is what you see here at the bottom, right? At the bottom of a move that's capitulative, that's kind of what you see. And that's what you saw that day. Price just ran in the 3,500, like boom, and then it stopped and it reversed. So now price has to kind of catch its breath, recalibrate, and decide what it's going to do, whether it's going to go lower or higher. Because this is the funny thing. You can have a market go in one direction for a long period of time, just like it has been, right? And then you can have it make a move like that, make it seem like it's done. And again, just have fake people because it's not just about what's on a daily. What does a 5-day chart say? Right? And on a 5-day basis, man, it looks like we're just recoiling for another move lower.
Yeah. Tells a different picture with the different candle size.
That's right. So it's all about perspective at the end of the day. And this is why you got to know how to play the long game, know when to not play the long game. Like, it's a game of ebbs and flows, right? Because one day people are going to love the market. The next day, people are going to be dumping it for 3 months. Like, you just don't know, right? And this is why it's important to understand what people think about the currency. So when we go back to the dollar, like, it looks like it's still in an uptrend, right, on a 8-day basis, because support is all the way down here at 107. But here's the catch. That is not how markets move, right? Because we got to realize what's actually happening is we got a wave situation going here, right? Now, this is strictly speaking from a physics standpoint. When a wave crests, what is it doing? It's doing the opposite of what got it to that point, right? I think everybody understands that. This is literally all it is. Same thing. Price is doing the same thing, right? When it's going up and it stops going up, where do you see that it ended going up first? Well, honestly, you see it at the smallest time frame. Now, the catch is that the other time frames have to continue that pattern of showing a top. It has to continue throughout the time frame. So
adds more credibility to the move.
Correct. So, for example, How did we know that this was a top here? We didn't. We couldn't really tell that. We just knew that it was downward momentum here, 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 right? And that volatility was rolling over, i.e., picking up in this instance, because when this measure goes lower in this reading, the way I'm using it, that means volatility is actually picking up. And this is what you're seeing here, right? As price goes lower, that means the variation in price is picking up. Because if price is just going up all the time, well, there's not much variation. It's just positive price action. Because we're measuring the rate of change, right? So because the rate of change is strictly positive, meaning to the upside only, once it starts becoming negative, that's changing the variation. So this is going to give you higher readings down here. And that's how you know that it's not just going up anymore. So like when you look at this one-way train, right? This was over a whole year, 2-year period. Look at what volatility did. Volatility had exploded to the downside in the year 2020, leading into the end of 2021. And then ultimately it's like somebody just dumped it. Like they just got rid of it. Because from the highest point since, let's see, 2009 almost. Yeah, it looks like 2010 was close also. But the point is those were high stress points in time.
Yeah.
If you guys remember, you had the Euro crisis was still thick. I mean, you had the U.S. was still suffering here. Then you had the Euro crisis here with Greece and everything else that they had over the pigs and all that. Remember Portugal, Italy, Ireland, what was the G? Greece and Spain.
I mean, what they're going through right now.
Yeah, basically the same thing that never went away. Yeah, because they just kicked the can down the road. So, but this is again why it's important to understand all these things I'm talking about. Like, these are things that I saw as I was coming up, learning how to understand the world financially. Like, I understood when I was in college that these people lied to get Greece into the EU. Like, I just knew that. I don't even know how I knew, but I just knew. Because when are they not going to lie to benefit themselves? Always.
Yeah.
They're always going to lie to benefit themselves. Forget about it. That's exactly why every single policy or rule that's made is to never benefit the common person, only themselves. And that's a fact. It's not an opinion. How is it that we got to be out here jumping through hoops to survive and they're just freaking living in a lap of luxury? I mean, they call themselves the elite. That's not what they used to call themselves when I was a kid. Right? This is a fact. And this is a function of society and how they think about themselves. There's a whole mass of human beings that think that there's another mass of human beings that are more superior to them. I mean, how fucked up is that? I can't subscribe to that shit, but good for them. Good for them that they think that they're low scum. Like, I'm not low, like I'm elite. If anybody's elite, it's me, not them people. Because I know how to take care of myself. I don't have to rely on others. I'm self-sustaining. And guess what? Even though I work for somebody else, guess what? I'm well equipped enough to fool them to think I care enough to work for them. Because they're entrusting me to take care of their crap. They could hire anybody else as many times over as they wish. So there's this give and take, right? Even though we're still slaves, we got to understand that there's trust that comes in this day and age. And that trust is fabricated, right? Through manufactured consent. And this is what people don't understand, because when people hear me talking like I'm talking, they think I'm crazy. Now I get to go
pretty worldview breaking.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
hell yeah. Like, now I get to go back into the office. Like, I've been alone for the past 2.5 years. So I don't think like them. I don't talk like them. I'm not like them. It's a whole, I'm a whole different type of human being. I'm a pure blood motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't get no jab. I'm not like them. Like, I know what my rights are. I know where I'm standing. I'm fully aware of the game. Those people are just getting played day in and day out, and they're okay with that. So when you come across people like that, those aren't people you're going to onboard to crypto. There's no fucking way. Like
people
they're
have to be willing and ready.
yeah, they're full-fledged participants in the charade. How are you gonna wake up people like that? You can't. It's almost impossible.
Well, let me pivot you then from the DXY to other currencies. We're obviously noticing a lot of things break in the system. And I was talking to Exercise about this. Like these are big deals that should not be happening when central banks come in and prevent a pension fund, right, with the ECB from getting margin called. Like those things are not supposed to be happening. It's showing that there's plumbing issues in the system. And with the new swap lines coming out, right, with Switzerland, I'm sure you saw that. You have issues with the Chinese currency, you have issues with the JPY going on, where they're trying to create fucking inflation over there. There's a lot of issues going on in the turd bowl of currencies, right, as they are compared to the US dollar. My question to you on these things is, outside of the Fed doing rate hikes, which I'll get into that in a bit, what is your take on what you think could potentially really break first here? I know it's kind of a $1 million question, like, hey, what's the black swan here? I guess I'm not necessarily asking that directly, but there's a lot of things happening, brewing in the pot. By the time it happens, it's like, it doesn't matter, it's too late. But I'm curious if you have any inclinations or any like gut feels based on what you've been seeing about where you'd put your money first. If it's a sovereign debt crisis, is it something in the bond market that causes an issue? What's your take on that?
Well, it's interesting because it's really a domino effect. And we've already seen the beginning of it right here in the dollar. The dollar has put on some serious pressure into just what the what's the best term is, financial conditions are, really worldwide. And they're extremely tight, right? Not loose. And now what does that mean? Tight means that it's costly to borrow money, and then on top of that, it's hard to access it, right? Meaning it's not just freely being given out like it used to be. Meaning banks are being stingier than they were before. So you have this amalgamation of reasons of why they're not issuing capital, or why they're not opening accounts. I mean, even where I work, we have a more stringent process now to essentially invoke capital controls, because that's what the Fed wants. And the primary dealers figure it out. And I work for a primary dealer. And that's what their job is, because they're the ones that are essentially playing the instruments, right? The Fed is like the maestro. The banks, the primary dealers, those that actually create debt in the system when the Fed issues more money, or whatever you want to call it, right? When more credit gets issued, all of that goes to primary dealers, who then lend it out, and so on and so forth, right? You guys know the chain. And that ultimately impacts everywhere else. Right. So once you start seeing price, and we already are seeing it in real life, that's what the inflation is. So you're asking what the non-call impacts are going to be. And I got to tell you, we're already seeing them in real life. It's just a matter of time before society starts reacting. And it's not going to be positive. It's not. It's going to be very negative, because when people can't afford to survive, well, guess what? They got to take things and do things that they wouldn't normally do. That's just how it goes. So, it's going to get real interesting here real soon, when people are confronted with paying the rent, paying, XYZ versus 1, 2, 3.
Well, I think that leads really well into, I guess, a segue into the Fed itself, where obviously Powell's taking on, excuse me, like a really strong liking to Volcker. I think that's clear. With his verbiage he's used, right? With continuing until the job is done. There's even a book that was written by Volcker that had that verbiage in it. And I guess the point I'm making here is, with them hiking, and at the recent meeting, and that's why I was really happy that we got you on after the recent meeting, he made it very clear that they're very okay with increasing until they break a bunch of fucking shit. And he specifically said, we have the tools, which we all know now, and I know you especially know, Wells, that the tools that were implemented in the 2020 crash were new. a lot of these things were new. People were not aware of this kind of level of quantitative easing and money printing and fiscal stimulus being directly inserted into the system. And I'm sure that they have even more systems now that they put in place, like the swap lines, to ensure that if there's cracks, which there are, that things don't totally get out of control. So I'm curious, based on what you just said, right, with inflation happening, especially in other countries, more so than the US, who breaks first, and why do you think the Fed is going to push this to absolute? Because you know they're doing it on purpose. We're getting to an obvious answer here, but they want to break things. They know they're over tightening. They know there's something massive is going to happen where, societally speaking, the conditions are correct to implement a new system or new systems.
You know, it's interesting. They said as much the other day that they definitely want to break the system. And every time you hear one of these financial folks that speak for central banks and what they're doing in any capacity, whether it's a Wall Street reporter or whatever, they make it clear. They are going to, and I've been saying this for at least a year already, if not a year and a half or almost on 2 at this point. They've been making it clear. That is their goal. And this is why you have to understand ratios. You have to understand why something priced in dollars is one thing versus being priced in something else. Like, this is the time to make sure you know those things so that you're not blindsided with the end of the financial system, because it's coming, whether you want it to or not. It's here because people are already de-dollarizing because they have to. It's not really optional anymore when the dollar yen is at 150. So what's the problem with Voku's tone and their approach? The main problem is the fact that they're acting like this is the beginning of the financial system. This is not the 1970s. There is no population boom. There's a population contraction. There is no employment growth. There's employment contraction because there's nobody willing to work, right? I mean, we're seeing this. This is real life.
The GDP growth we can get from debt production as well. So we're reaching limits there too.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because any GDP growth that we've recently have had has been strictly from exports, not imports, not production, not anything domestic. All exports, all export activity. Nothing like the consumer is.
We've exported inflation.
We've exported everything, brother. Right? We've exported our ability to purchase. And this is what we've been doing for the past 50, 60 years. And nobody has been aware of that. And now they're going to learn it the hard way.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring that up, because the other thing that's been really apparent is the term you use. People really need to get really familiarized with what de-dollarization means in the system. And it started with the SWIFT, right? With us kicking Russia and those guys off the SWIFT system, and they're basically like, whatever, we don't fucking care. We're buying gold. We're going to create Brexit. We're going to create our own reserve currency. And you see talks of getting off the petrodollar. That's really been the coattails we've been riding for a long time for enjoying the reserve currency status that we take for granted, that Japan, for example, has to hold all these U.S. Treasury notes that they can dump on the market to balance their currency out when it's tanking. So that change is coming. And my worry, dude, is this is going to happen much faster than they realize. And, what people forget, there was a meeting this past summer. I forget which one it was, but Powell basically did a shot across the bow. It was probably Jackson Hole, where he did a shot across the bow and said, I envision a day where there is a multiple amount of reserve currencies. That was a shot across the bow, basically saying, hey, to the people who actually know what's going on, get your shit out, get ready to fucking go. Because the US dollar, its days are numbered. My concern is, these are humans. They're obviously able to make mistakes, clearly.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're going to over leverage here and fuck it all up, because that's probably what they would like to do is go too far than not enough. And then it's like, oh, the right situation is up for something like a central bank digital currency for giving our privacy and ability of purchasing, with privacy. And that's just a start, right? That's just one thing. I guess my main concern is we're really leveraging the U.S. as superpower status big time, and really just kind of like swinging it around willy-nilly without really real concern about, like, what these rate hikes they're pushing into the system is a lagged effect. We're starting to see the real numbers come out here. Even if inflation doesn't top, I think the obvious consensus is we're not going anywhere near 2% again. That's fucking gone. 4%, maybe. but they're going to have to stop way sooner. Like I can't
Yeah.
imagine them hiking rates any further past Q1 next year. There's no
Well,
effing way.
I'll tell you what, I really thought that there was a chance that they might go with a 50 basis point cut, or I'm sorry, hike in Q4. But after yesterday's, was it yesterday? Last Wednesday's meeting, or whatever it was, I can't remember anymore. Oh, it's the 7th. Yeah, it was definitely last Wednesday's.
Yeah.
They're definitely gonna do a full 75, and
In
people
December, too, you
are.
think?
Yeah, and people are thinking 50, but nah, they're gonna do a full 75. No doubt about it.
They don't care, man. They're gonna look at the data. It's gonna come in. It's gonna really wreck people, you know. And this is like once again robbing people's purchasing power, right? With the DXY coming down on the long term, right? People look at the short term, they forget. Like zoom the fuck out. Go to the monthly. It's lost how much purchasing power in real things like food and stuff. That's what really matters. I don't want to buy fucking euros. Like what's that gonna do for me? You know,
not a damn thing.
So when these things break big time and they say they have these systems, you got to ask yourself, because that's a concern, what are they giving up in terms of future growth of the country? Our status as a reserve currency, you know, in general, because like you got to ask yourself, like, do they really want to lose that status that quick? Why do they want to almost accelerate it? Because it's like almost they're tied to politics too much still, so they're losing that battle with Russia, with what's going on with Brexit, with the petrodollar losing itself. And you saw happen with Biden recently with some of the OPEC individuals. It's just really bad. There's just a lot of bad things coming out, and I'm very glass half full. I have to be in my industry, right? But
yeah,
it's a lot of, there is going to be big mistakes made at the expense of a lot of people. So I guess what I'm really asking you, friend, is if you had to kind of give me your gut feel on the direction of travel the Fed takes us going into 2023, where do you think the big changes are going to occur? If you had to take a stab at it. And I think you know what I mean when I say big changes.
Yeah. Higher rates for sure. Like that's just going to be permanent for the foreseeable future.
Elevated for next year for sure.
And then they're definitely going to implement CBDC.
I mean, the Fed now is ready. They technically kind of already soft launched it. They said it was coming summer of next year.
Well, the best part, I don't know if you guys saw the recent release that they did where they just did a launch, or they were doing a testing of buying cryptos and interoperability and all this nonsense. Like they're going all in right now. And long story short, they're gonna be throwing that thing wherever they can, pretty much.
Throwing what thing?
The CBDC. I'm sorry.
Got it.
The CBD, and they. Well, the best part is that, and this is what I meant to say earlier, is that they finished their conclusion with a non-plus comment, as if it, detailing that everything was successful, as if it's irrelevant. I'm letting you know how relevant it is.
It's very relevant. I mean, think about it. The right societal situation has to be in place. Who's going to willingly give up their privacy of purchasing? Just when things are good. Like, why would I do that? Things are good. Why do I need this? I don't need this, dude. Yeah. So when inflation stays, like, I guess the thing is too, is like you say rates are going to be elevated next year. I don't think the system can handle it. I think they're going to have to they're just going to have to revert course because there's going to be too much pain. I think you're already starting to see it. I think it's going to take them by surprise, and they're going to come in with tools. And the new norm for inflation is going to have to be 4 to 5% and up for sure. That's what I think is going to happen. There's no way in hell they're getting below 4% sustained. There's no way. They may touch it for one CPI.
And if they change their calculation,
right? I mean, yeah, that's CPI, right? They want to keep fucking around with these shitty
to give us a plausible, scenario.
There is one way.
Yeah, I don't think we can come up with a plausible scenario otherwise.
No, there is none, dude. It's like, well, my eggs did a 17x. I don't know what you're telling me that the CPI is at 4%. My eggs are doing harder X's than Bitcoin's doing right now, dude.
It's crazy,
so,
man.
I don't think they can hold. I know he has to say what he has to say. Like,
Yeah,
he can't say, hey, yeah, you know what? You're probably right. Things are probably going to crash and burn by Q1, Q2. They're not going to be able to keep rates at 5%.
Imagine Powell saying, look, I'm just going to crash the economy, and you motherfuckers just got to deal with it. Good luck.
We would honestly appreciate it. I think most Americans are actually, like, I'm very glass half full in America in general.
But
very
that's
bullish
the
on
whole
America.
thing about it. they don't want you to be prepared.
Yeah, they don't want, which is crazy because it's like they're
Mhm.
really relying on our military here. I think you know what I mean when I say that.
Yeah.
They want a populace because keep in mind, wars aren't fought with bullets anymore. They're fought with currencies. That's
Well,
the real war
what's
going on.
interesting is I agree, but I think the outcome that they're gonna get is not the outcome that they expect.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think they're playing with fire big time here, and I think they're going to lose this game of chess when it comes to basically the East versus the West. Let's call it what it is right now.
Yeah,
That's
I
going on.
mean,
There's a hard line in the sand being drawn.
yeah,
People are picking sides, dude. Like,
yeah, 100%. And I tell you what, I regret ever leaving the military. At this point, with everything that's been going on, I regret leaving because I would love to be in there fucking fighting right now. Because this is gonna be a military fight. Civilians are too inept, too dumb. I mean, police are too dumb. Like people are scared of police for no reason. They don't understand that they're just violent animals. Violent animals can be tamed, right? I mean,
yeah.
Mhm.
how the fuck we got a zoo?
Yeah.
It's not fucking rocket science. So, you know, people that have been in the service that understand the game, been part of it and all that, they understand what's going on. They know what the threats are. And the threat is psychological strictly. And everybody is begotten. Like everybody gets gotten by it. Everybody. And you see it by how they react, by how they address certain things, by how like things they give importance to, right? Things like that. Like that's how you know where's people's understanding lies and stuff like that. And it's crazy because people pretend to be so knowledgeable, but then when something happens, you can see who's knowledgeable and who's not. Kind of like right now with this SEC stuff and Hex. It's a joke. So
Mm.
yeah.
Do we want to pivot into that right now?
I mean, it's nothing to pivot into. I've already explained how this works a billion times. The fact that anybody's even talking about it just goes to show that people who didn't listen at all, they don't know, and let them pull their hair out. Like, there's no helping people like that. like, what can they do? What can they say? Okay, and where's the company? Like, show me. I'll wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I'm at pivot just because that was the only fucking thing making up my Twitter feed today. There's nothing else going on besides people
Yeah,
freaking
fuck.
out. And I
It's
was like, Jesus
nonsense,
Christ,
man.
dude.
It's nonsense. It's total nonsense, and this is just goes to show how people do not understand basic stuff that's been relayed. And it's sad because it was relayed for everyone's benefit, and people just rather remain ignorant. Nothing you can do about that. So
That's crazy if that's the case. Like, hey, we want to let you guys know it's kind of a nothing burger and this is what it is. Just so you get the community can be aware of what's going on. And then it just, like obviously you have
bro,
the intentional bad players that are gonna do
it's
what they can with
yeah,
it.
yeah. And the funny thing is like, yo, this is information that's on the internet. Like I've done streams on regulatory stuff, like how it impacts accident for nothing.
It seemed like this one didn't even have to do with Hex. It was just about people promoting it.
Yeah, exactly.
Had
But
nothing
now
to do with
people
the
are
Hex as a product itself. It was about if
not how
people
people
took
are
money
acting.
from others to promote it, which that can happen on any coin.
Correct. But clearly it didn't happen here because Hex doesn't even operate that way. But point is, people don't even they don't even pay attention to the details.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if anything, everybody hates Hex. Who is actually giving our influencers money
Exactly.
to have the Hex price go up? So yeah, I understand. Like the only, I guess, curiosity that I would say for someone like myself who's not incredibly knowledgeable how the SEC operates by any means, why would they care to waste their time, or do they have to do their due diligence on something like this when someone files something publicly,
Right.
even if it was out of FUD,
Yeah, no, because again, at the end of the day, it's not about the content. It's about context. And context is can't touch me. Keep it moving.
I mean, I don't know why people get so freaked out until you see Richard streaming going, it's all over, dudes, for whatever reason. Then maybe you got something. Like that's when something like this comes out. I'm just like, dude, this just screams someone's trying to get this thing to bottom out even lower. The Hex price for no reason. And even then you get this insane candle. Like, this is hilarious on the price chart. This is fucking hilariously awesome when you see some shit like that on the Hex price chart. This nutso Judas candle holding long-term support still. It's just like, you can't make this up. You can't make this shit up. Like, if this was supposed to die, it should have died. Like 10 times over, it should have died. Are you kidding me?
Doesn't.
No, dude. Because that's not how the liquidity pools work. That's not how the staking mechanisms work. This is the mechanics of the product working. This is not some bullshit exchange that's locking everybody's money and then dumping on everybody's heads. This is not like what people have seen or are used to.
Correct.
They're not even used to how this one guy got wrecked with liquidity. When I saw you, I tagged you in that screenshot, right, from the old school content. The Hex bid, dude. That thing's fucking hilarious. Where people are just like, whatever, let's just sell this, not thinking about the order books, and they don't realize Hex is a low float stock. That's all it is.
Correct. And that's
it's a low float stock with lockups. It's no different than what runs multiple dollars a day in the pre-market every day. People freak out like, oh my God, there's no way Hex could run a few dollars. I'm like, what, dude? There's bullshit companies every day, every morning running multiple dollars that are low float.
People don't get it, man. Like, and that's what's funny, because crypto is the one space where it can happen the easiest.
Yeah.
And this is where people come for that, and then they don't come to the highest probability scenario to get that experience, which is funny, because if you know anything about finance, you know that something like this literally doesn't exist. Not in this capacity, not in this functionality, not trustless like this, like where you can just like what? Just make your own.
I got an email from my bank today for 4% locked up. That's not trustless. That's a central bank. And as you know, you're a creditor to the bank, man. Oh, you know what a good question for you would be? You know what people really need to be worried about is bank balance happening in the next, I don't know, year or two.
Well, I know what you mean, but let me help you, because while you said bank bail-ins or bailouts, is actually bank bail-ins.
No, I said balance. Yeah.
Oh, you said balance? I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah, bank balance, because we're creditors, right? We're a creditor to them. Yeah, people think about a bailout when really there's a bail-in. They could take your money. You're the creditor at that point. Right. You know, like your money's at risk. You got FDIC, but still, it's. Remember, they could take your purchasing power, right? Like, hey, here's your $100,000 back, but it purchases you like 50% less. That's the whole point. Bank holidays, right? People forget that this stuff happened. So haircuts. Enough time passes. Yeah, haircuts on the purchasing power. I mean, it's just inflation on steroids and a quick little hit.
Yeah, I mean, look, things can easily be repriced with the keystroke, you know, and I don't think people can understand that because they don't grasp how centralized systems actually work. Because just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't happen. I mean, look at how people look at what's happening today. You know, the way things operate today is not the way they operated in 2019. The world has changed dramatically. And with that, you got to take into account the fact that anything can happen, because I'll tell you what, as a person that's been defending the Constitution since the age of 17, I never in my life thought I would see anything like 2020.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, dude, that's we saw a decade worth of change happen in 2 years as it pertains to cultural stuff, just in my industry alone.
Yeah.
Wild shit.
Like that shit, like that comment I just made is serious as cancer. Like, if you were in the service and you grasp what you were doing, then you grasp what I just said. You know, if you're just a fucking person that's in there getting your paycheck every 2 weeks, and then, you know, you don't matter either. You're just like everybody else. You know, you don't matter. You're just in there. You're just a fucking NPC like everybody else, right? Yeah. But if you actually were in there paying attention and learning and observing and absorbing, right, then you look at all the stuff I'm relaying. I'm relaying it because I fucking absorbed and I learned. It isn't because I was some schmuck just turning the wrench. Because that was my job. So clearly, right, it's not that simple if you're paying attention. So it's just about what you want to get from an experience, man. And people say this stuff all the time, but for whatever reason, they don't like to apply it. But they should. Case in point. Like I did my time and I got my information from it, and it helped me, and I know where to look and how to look. And nobody can take that. but people don't take it at value when they should. That's what's funny. It's like everybody wants to know, but nobody wants the secrets. Funny how that works.
Yeah, the burden of responsibility is a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, right?
Because once you know, like the responsibility is there to uphold that stuff. And there is a lot of, I mean, people forget, like, I relay this stuff with my stuff all the time where, Americans can learn things and do things quite well. I think there's a lack of mentorship in the world that's really big. And there's a whole bunch of reasons we can get into and why that is. But when it comes to what we just said about, oh, man, I'm losing my train of thought. Holy shit. Talked about too much stuff tonight. Okay, I'm just going to cut myself off before I go any further on some weird tangent. But, now that we have the hex price up, it's interesting because people have been referencing the psychology chart on market cycles and where we're at. And I want to get your feedback on this because I got into hex, my friend, when I listened to you and Kareem quite a bit. And we've been through a pretty crazy market cycle here, right?
Yeah.
I've been since really following it since like 13 cents, but because of Coinbase and other things, not really in it until after. So it's been mostly down. But the point is we're moving through the cycle. That's a good thing. When these prices do these kinds of things, I go, awesome. We're moving into the next stages. Like, that's a good thing. I don't want to see sideways forever. Like, don't get me wrong. We're all in it for the long game, but like the quicker we can get out of the shitty cycle, the more the other stuff can come. So I was curious on your feedback on where you think we're at with the cycle, especially since, Hex's bear started much earlier than everybody else's. Do you think that trend will hold with its start, whether it forms support here at 2 cents, 3 cents, wherever? What's your take on Hex's cycle right now?
Well, given all the ridiculousness that's going on, I gotta say, I mean, I even got a phone call about it. I mean, this is from people that learned about Hex from me. So I gotta be honest.
Strong right now. Fud's strong.
Yo, I gotta be honest with you. When I got that phone call, and this person doesn't fucking call me. So when I saw that fucking name on my screen and that shit ringing, I got fucking mad because I already knew. I already knew what the phone call was about. And sure enough, it was about that fake, that bootleg ass subpoena. The people not understanding how this, the technology works. Pretty much case in point. Proves that right there. Because if they did, that would have never even been plastered on the internet. That's my opinion on that. Because it's like you stated earlier, it has nothing to do with X. The fuck? It's so comical, right? Because people want the freedom, but they don't. They really don't. They would not be losing their minds over nonsense. And to answer your question, I think we're at the most, I think it's either anger or depression. I can't remember which is the most bottom point, but whichever one that is. Let me look up the chart.
I think it's
depression. Price kind of mimics it too.
It's they're close.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Now, I saw comments because once you start reading, and people are making some pretty wild accusations that this was something that was made by someone that used to be in the Hex community, and it's like by people who don't even stream and stuff. So you gotta like wonder, like, this seems almost like it was just like done on purpose by somebody who knows these people versus like Luna, like a real situation where people, yeah. So yeah. I was like, man, it just didn't. I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't. None of that adds up. Even if it is real, it doesn't add up. It seems like it was born out of frustration. It was born out of somebody being pissed off.
Look, even if it's real, you got to understand what it's saying, right? And that's the biggest problem. People don't fucking read, because if they did, they would understand that has nothing to do with Hex. It's just asking if you got paid for promoting Hex, then you need to let us know and give us a documentation. Otherwise, we're gonna find it anyway. That's what that document states. Literally. That is it. Mm-hmm. So, if you don't understand that, then you probably shouldn't be talking about it. So I don't really know, like that's really all it says. I don't know what else it says. Like that's what it says.
Yeah.
The chart doesn't say anything else. Like that's literally all it says. So, or the letter, whatever. So whether it's real or not doesn't actually even matter. And I can't find this damn chart for some reason.
This isn't super zoomed in, but I think I got it here. I think that's called the Wall
Oh
Street.
yeah, that's it. That's it.
Right?
Yep,
That's the one. I was
So
trying to find
anger and
anger.
depression are pretty damn close.
Yeah, I
Anger.
would say we're in depression state at this point.
Yeah, I think I agree, man. I'm seeing lots of pain in like with normies talking literally talking about like 401ks, retirement, like literally this quote right here, my retirement money is lost.
Oh my god,
Right?
really?
It's for real.
Oh wow.
Well,
How can we
you're
pay for all
definitely
this
seeing a
stuff?
mindset shift where people are legit breaking now. Like,
Yeah.
which that group of people is going to be in any community, no matter what.
Yeah.
People who over leverage. And honestly, you got to learn that at some point. I used to do day trading, and
Yeah,
I over leveraged, and it's
Mhm.
not something you ever want to do. I mean, just like Richard says, right? Leverage, booze, and ladies are typically easy ways to do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you learn,
respect
but once
the
you
race.
learn, you never make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Correct,
So
correct.
you can be prepared for when a cycle like this presents itself, because this is just an economic cycle,
Mhm.
and it's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big old daddy. So that's why I'm so fascinated by this one, Wales, because it's not going to play out like 08. People are looking for all these signs like these other cycles, and it's got so many different parameters associated with it, where you may see the most massive bull market of all time happen very quickly out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, what's to stop anybody from printing more money?
I've talked about that before, actually.
So it's like people really need to be prepared for anything. And I think
Yeah.
I'm starting to notice, and correct me if you think otherwise, the sentiment for bearishness is just wildly too far now. It is just everything's going to zero.
That's why I think we're in depression. That's why, because before people were just angry, they were just like whatever, like when we were at 3 cents last time, 2 cents last time, it wasn't like this. Now people are like, oh, the world's gonna end. Oh my god, my 401k money. Like really, like you people really don't understand X. Like it's crazy. The fact that people can't even fix their mouth to say that is wild to me, or even type it or whatever. It's like, good riddance. Please sell. I'll be buying your bags when I hope people sell it to sub 1 cent. I hope, because you can't help some people. I mean, the information's out there. What more can you do? I don't even know at this point. Like it's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we're close.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I really think we're at that bottom point, like that low point, because it just, how much sense does it make? It's so nonsensical. I don't know.
Well, there's only so many people willing to sell at a 95% discount. And then also however many weak hands are still in the system, like that one person that apparently did good counting on their stakes and just let it sit there from like 10 cents all the way down. I don't know. That was a weird chain analysis that I saw on the one that sold today. But
yeah, I saw that.
And even then it got bought up all the way to 3 cents. So what does it make a fucking sextuplet bottom, at 3 cents? Like at some point sentiment's going to shift for people assign value to hacks at 3 cents. They already have, but the majority are going to, and that's where it goes higher.
So you use the day trade. Right? So let's talk about this. You guys understand that when a price hits a level multiple times, the more times it hits it, the weaker that level gets. Well, in crypto, it's opposite.
Which is odd you say that, because there's a couple of people in the community that were like making the claims that those levels get weaker the more they get touched from like a traditional TA standpoint.
It's because they don't understand what the fuck they're talking about. That's all. And that's okay. People gotta learn. This will be when they learn. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's okay. Because me telling them ain't gonna teach them that. The market gotta teach them that. And that's okay. Now, why is that the case? That's the question. Because if people understood what they were talking about, they would never fix their mouth to say such things. Now, what do you see on a Bitcoin chart? What do you see on a Doge chart? What do you see on any cryptocurrency chart at the bottom of a bear market?
Gets touched multiple times.
Many multiple times.
Yeah,
That's right.
tapping.
That's right. Ding, 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 ding. And there's your proof. Why would Hex be any different? It's the only actual real crypto.
Yeah, Bitcoin made it at 3K
Yeah,
on the last cycle.
that's right. Bitcoin always bottoms out multiple times by hitting
Yeah.
the same level. So why, Ethereum, same deal. Why the hell would Hex not?
Yeah.
Nonsensical. So, this is again when you got to realize what you are talking about. The nuances matter, man. This is why, these streams run, oh my God, an hour, 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even realize it because I'm having a good time, but that's what happens, right? I mean, you know, slowly, then all of a sudden,
Yeah. Yeah, and I
that's
think with Hex too, like the other externality to it is you have more users entering the system. You see it with the staking mechanics, you see it with the wallets, buy to
yeah,
sell ratios. People are forgetting about more people are entering the system, locking up, right? AKA the float is diminishing,
yep,
depending on what the inflation rate's doing, right? And as more people are entering the system, these are not typically day traders because of the way Hex acts as a product. This is not Bitcoin where you can dump whenever you want. It's
word.
protected tenfold against that. So
Correct.
that's interesting you say that because I would have like gut feel would have said like the weaker would have gotten. I would have absolutely said that. So I'm kind of happy you said that to change my worldview on that a little bit to think differently about it. And at some point it's got to bottom somewhere. And most cryptos don't bottom with a Judas candle like that. It's usually hitting multiple levels. In this
Yeah.
case here with Hex, we did make a Judas candle, but it's still forming support at fucking 3 cents for what?
Well,
1, 2, 3.
we could,
4 times.
worst case scenario, we could sit around down here until the bottom till June 2023. That's worst case scenario,
Yeah.
right? Because what's happening, we're getting all the way. I mean, there's a lot of Hex that has to be distributed because supply was so heavily weighted at the beginning.
Mhm.
And that's something that even I didn't account for when I was doing my initial analysis because I didn't really take a look at that. I didn't really bother to grasp it or give it any serious consideration. But now, after being down 95% for so long and looking at everything, how it unfolded, I realized that I made a grave error in not paying attention to that because that is really driving a lot of everything that's happening right now. Is all these folks that have copious amounts of fucking Hex to sell. It's
Mhm.
gonna be a problem for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, there were big bags made at the start.
Huge, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the one guy with the 15 million or whatever, or the 2 million from 9,000 or whatever the crazy numbers were.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you see that at? That's
Yeah.
not normal,
No.
So, yeah, it is
Even
what
then,
it
we're
is.
holding up like really well for
Yeah.
like this is some peak FUD shit that's going on right now where you have like
Mm-hmm.
pretty big influencers doing everything they can, which is just hilarious, man. Seeing that kind of stuff. It's like that's how you create value. You sit on Twitter and do this stuff. That's how I know somebody's a pleb. When that's their way of creating value is by doing that. It's terrible. It's terrible stuff. So that's why I hope Hexicans can, have a strong mindset and create value outside of the system. Because Hex is great and everything, but crypto ain't the savior you think it's going to be. You need to create value as an individual first and foremost, and then
Well, I think you nailed it, right? Because crypto is only as so good as the people that understand it.
yeah.
Look at Binance, right?
Oh,
You're
God.
not there's no savior or financial freedom over there. Nah, I saw a tweet from CZ today or something talking about he got 8 billion in ETH. Yeah, I'm sure he does with all the ETH he be stealing over there. That was my first thought. Of course you got 8 billion in ETH. I'm surprised you don't have 20 billion. All you do is take other people's money.
Yeah. Fees and
Yeah.
trading and all that bullshit.
Not even. I mean, straight out of people's wallets. Yeah. I don't know if you guys know that, but if you got money on BSC, you might want to be mindful because money disappears out of wallets over there. All the time.
I don't.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
Don't.
I do not.
Yeah, don't. Don't, because you want to keep your money.
Yeah.
You don't want to let it go. So, yes, sir. Anything other specific you guys want to talk about?
I think that's all I got, man. Thanks for hanging around this long. You got anything?
Oh, my pleasure, man.
Well, should we wrap up with some health and fitness? You kind of referenced your running a bit, but we started this in January of this year, so we've been going for a long time. And like Ryan said, it's friggin' bear market feels like our viewers dropped off the face of the earth. So we moved from a weekly show to a monthly show where we kind of do a recap and talk about whatever's going on in the health and fitness world. And yeah, there's so many problems. So I don't know, just because you're here, you kind of referenced running, but do you have like a health and fitness regimen to keep your body and your mind right, or maybe just like habits or a process that you stick to?
I got more habits because I've been doing it for so long that I'm not really good with like a structured schedule. I'm very spontaneous like, so I just do things whenever I feel like doing them. So with that in mind, I don't do like a same type of workout routine every day or anything like that. But what I do is that when I do run, I run a hell of a long distance. For example, my short run is a 4 miler minimum.
Nice.
Anything longer than that, it's going to depend on how much time I have and stuff like that, what I got going on. And that's really just it. But I'm always finding time to run. And when I run, I don't just run. I do like a full body workout. I do calisthenics head to toe. So my workouts might last like an hour and a half to 2.5 hours mostly. But I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff in that time. So my body gets hit multiple different ways and, pretty aggressive manner. So it's always high, it's always highly intense, the workouts that I do. It's almost like I'm some type of athlete, but I'm not, I'm not like an athlete, but almost to that capacity. Cause I like to really stress, like I live in a high stress way. And what I mean by that is like I consume low quantities. I run with low consumption, like I work out low consumption, like everything I do is low consumption. So when I am in some, precarious situation is nothing, so that's just the way I train. So my body is it's battle tested, battle proven, like that's how I like to be. So I'm always ready for war, literally. So that's just by default how I just live. Fortunately for me, I got tasked with some of that growing up, so it just ended up working out. But interestingly enough, when I was in the military, the workout regimen in there, while the running was good, but I didn't really even learn how to run until after, just because it was wartime. It was just weird. Everything was it just wasn't really the place for that. But besides that, though, just the hardest thing about working out or just having different habits is just giving yourself the time to get used to it.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing. Because again, I like to just harp back on how I think of how I'm gonna feel after I eat something. Like that is so major.
Yeah.
Because that really keeps my discipline in check, man. Like I tell you, I be wanting to buy Chinese food and pizza all day. It's right downstairs. It's so easy, no effort, no nothing. A sandwich, a hero, whatever, right? Like it takes right? It takes no effort. But you gotta
Well,
tame
that
that.
also another thing too in the cryptocurrency, it's always a shit show, as you guys know. Keep going, but well, I'm just gonna say it. So you guys know what's going on with FTX and all that bullshit with the centralized exchanges. Their token right now is live just plummeting, dude. Sound like
really?
What is
like
that?
40%,
the FTX coin?
Yeah, pull up FTX USDT in trading view.
That's fun.
I'm on Dex Screener. Is that going to do enough for me here?
Yeah.
Shit.
Liquidity.
Got a candle,
There's a
homie.
butt ton of volume here, I guess. 4.4.
Ooh, you never want to see liquidity be greater or less than volume. Ouch.
Mama.
Now I wonder if that's like part of Binance's sells or if that's just people like exiting out even before Binance sells.
You'll never know. What? Put the 4 hour on that bad boy when you're done doing that? Dude, you could have did that. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Oof. Not a good look.
That means Binance ain't getting anywhere near what he quoted yet.
Nah,
as the price just capitulates before he can even get out.
Yeah, and that's assuming he didn't get out before he said that.
I know he was like trying to be all transparent, like, yo, I'm gonna do this over a few months and this and that's like,
yeah, sure.
Why would he do that knowing the price? Like, that's funding the price of it right there. That's market manipulation. It's finest when you're the largest centralized ownership of the fucking coin. Like, you're making up like what, 50% of the market cap?
Maybe he wants to buy out FTX.
Oh my god!
Imagine that, because he got the bag for it, right?
Yeah, he's starting to play nice with politicians too right now. He was on a couple. You see that he was on a couple streams or a couple of live.
What was the country? Romania, I think it was. I was like, ew. Like, he was doing some like red carpet shit in Romania, bro. Like with politicians, and this is the thing. It's like, that's not crypto. What do you
Which
think?
one of them? CZ?
Yeah, Binance guy.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. Shit doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
You're like, what? Yeah, exactly. That's like eating McDonald's every day and working out. Why would you do that? But people do it. I mean, that's like eating the salads at McDonald's, thinking you taking care of yourself and shit. Yeah. I mean, yo, people do this. This is real life.
So bad. Bitcoin's not holding either. As you know, it's turning back in that range, man. It's still in that descending triangle, turning back in the range. Look, we want these cycles to happen quicker, man. I would prefer not to have it take all the way to June, like you said. So if Bitcoin wants to do its thing down to 10K, dude, great, man. Like, why are people freaking out about it? It's like when it finally comes, like people are like, oh no, like we talked about it forever, but we don't actually want it to happen. It's like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah,
it's supposed to do this.
June was arbitrary. I mean, it's really gonna be reminiscent or dependent on post-chain release.
Yeah, dude. We have so many events going on, like buy the rumor, sell the news events, and even if it doesn't create real like price appreciation, like big time, it's still raising the floor. You're still bringing new people in the ecosystem. Like, these are big events,
they are big events because it definitely. I mean, look at the price now for Hex. I mean, it's not going anywhere.
I know, it's hilarious, dude. All these people doing that, it still gets bought up. That's fucking hilarious. I mean, overall, it could still obviously go lower for sure, but yeah, Pulse Chain is definitely the big deal. Richards is suspiciously quiet, which is a good thing. He's probably just really pissed off and frustrated by, honestly, the community. I have to say, he's probably really pissed off.
Yeah, the community is embarrassing. Flat.
He's probably, like I told this to Exercise, he probably for sure wants to get rid of people that aren't, like, I want to say hex kids, but like, true believers in crypto. People that are
fucking be fake hexagons. That's all right. You can call them how you see them, bro. They're fake hexagons.
It's just like, in general, though, it's like, you guys follow this guy and you believe in this stuff, like, you gotta like understand how the product works and the mechanics of it.
Yeah, people don't, man. People don't care.
Don't over leverage.
They obviously do not care. I mean, never mind over leveraging. You can be over leveraged all you want. If you understand what the hell you own, you're not gonna. I'm sorry, you're just not gonna care because you're gonna be confident in the fact that the price is coming back. Period. Don't you guys you guys get that? Like, that's
on 2 chains on a stock split. Like, do you,
bro?
It's like people have already forgotten. Like, what did Apple do in a stock split? What did Amazon? Bajillion stock splits.
But hold on. Let me put you onto something even better. Just like I helped you guys understand how crypto's bottom. Let me help you understand how what happens when a coin forks. So, like, a stock split is typically dilutive, meaning ownership is being broken down into smaller bits, right? Well, in digital world, it's accretive. It's not dilutive.
So it's going to the same people.
Bro, we value it the fucking exact same. It just multiplies by 2, literally, and we accept it as such. We don't cut it in half. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stock market automatically dilutes that bad boy by whatever the percentage ends up being because of whatever the math ends up being.
Yeah.
we treat it like video game money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a big part of that too will be, what the liquidity pools look like, what the bots are going to do, and all that stuff too. But to your point, even then, like people who have it are going to value it as if it hex is 10 cents at that point. We're still going to value it as 10 cents in the other chain. Like we're not gonna be like, oh well, it needs to go down to 5 for whatever fucking reason.
I mean, if the liquidity pool makes sense on both sides, the prices are going to be the same because people are going to want the value to be the same. It's just a function of what's the other side. Because as you guys see by EW and ETH Fork, people weren't really caring like that. Like they really were like, whatever, so it is what it is.
Ooh.
Until people care, about those chains, there's not going to be much to reference there. Ooh. So we'll see.
Bitcoin's starting to have some issues here.
Yeah, Bitcoin ain't safe, bro. All these things is going to get hit. Don't.
Oh, I know they ain't safe. I'm just trying to. The hilarious thing is seeing it unfold, knowing the Fed knows that things are going to break very soon. I think I called it around August, September. I'm surprised it's lasted this long. Technically, let's be honest, it hasn't. When you got the ECB buying bonds and propping up currencies, like real currencies, not third world country currencies,
the Fed is
breaking, bro.
The Fed is doing the opposite of what. I'm sorry, ECB is doing the opposite of what the Fed is doing. That's how you know shit is broken.
And they're like contradicting on both ends, right? They have different like political stances on both on their short end of the curve and the long end of the curve. It's hilarious.
Yeah, because they both are.
That's like we don't give a fuck. We want to break everything, but that's the thing. People forget. People just like, oh, it's fine here, it's fine here. People need to update their worldview and understand when Europe goes, we're too interconnected. We're going down too.
Yeah.
Period. They have conversations. Contagion. The Fed says it at the meetings too. We have ongoing conversations. I fucking hate that word. Ongoing conversations, whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah.
With these world leaders on the ongoing geopolitical setup, right, with what's going on, as well as their economic standpoint. They know that these countries are in deep shit. They know, dude. I don't even want to know what these countries already know what's going on. With what the U.S. is going to implement. I'm sure they already know what they're going to implement, and the order of operations in which this stuff's going to happen. People are crazy if they think otherwise.
100%. It's already plotted beforehand.
I'm just trying to get the timing because it's going to be kind of a fun game. Like if we're going to have some fun here, when are things going to break so much that the Fed has to use their tools, in quotes, their tools to do whatever they're going to do? Who knows? Fed wallet and it's directly inject money that has, layered rules to it. Like, hey, you have access money in your bank account, but you can't buy a baseball cap with it. You can only buy gas and food with it. That's what's coming,
Yeah. We laugh.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
That's
I did find
the reality.
That article you were referencing, Wales. So I'm gonna have to give it a read later.
Yeah.
But yeah, in
they came
Project Cedar Phase 1, the experiment simulated foreign exchange trade. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one, man. And the crazy thing is that they put it out. They don't hide it.
Yeah, they're just right here.
No, this is recent, man.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing about the information out there on YouTube. If you're smart and could just figure out where real value is, you can see these things happening in real time. Like it's actually amazing. They know they're losing this battle. Like they know more and more people are waking up. It's just not enough yet.
100%. And this is what's crazy. It's at the point where myself, I don't have to say or do anything anymore. Like there's so many people now doing the same things I was doing before. Like there's so many more people now that are just awake. It's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, there's still a lot more that are
hey man,
the first ones that are going to have to take the system and
we got to take what we can get because after the past 2.5 years, we got a whole segment of the population that just doesn't matter anymore. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
It's
going to be rough stuff, bro.
For them, not for us. I mean, for people that understand what happened over the past 2.5 years, they're going to win. Everybody else, sucks to be y'all. I mean, I don't even feel bad for people like in that bucket. So whatever, bro. Like, you made your choice. Like, now we know who the Nazis would have been. Simple.
Yeah.
Nazi sympathizer. It's real simple. There's no other way to cut it. It's that simple, period. So, sucks but true.
We definitely have to have you back on in maybe a few more months.
For sure, man.
To get your take on what's going on. I think in the next 2 to 3 months, we're going to see some serious fireworks. I'd be very surprised if we don't. So yeah, I got nothing else. I don't want to keep you on too long. What do you
No
think,
worries,
exercise?
Yeah, no, that was wicked.
My pleasure, man. Anytime, guys. Just let me know.
Yeah, really enjoyed just listening to you like think about things out loud. I think you're a
Yeah.
great
No.
critical thinker for our space.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I try to think,
And
in a way that makes sense, if that makes sense.
and then just like you'll make simple statements and simple conclusions when I'm like trying to think down a rabbit hole. And you'll just draw it to light and be what was the one statement you made? It was just like, well, people don't see it that way. So like that's where you can finish that line of thought.
Yeah,
Like
but
that's the conclusion. Like you don't have to go
right.
down all these other
Yeah,
thought
but
processes.
how
Like this,
important is that?
yeah, that's
I
huge, man.
just saved you a ton of time.
For real.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time, guys, thinking that certain data points mattered when they did not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
Like, getting these shortcuts from somebody that has an understanding of where to look, you just can't pay for that. That's invaluable. And
Yeah.
people don't realize that because they don't know, and
Yep.
that's the crazy part. But it's
Yeah.
out here.
Yeah.
Hold on. Oh, there has been a technical difficulty for the drawing of the 1.9 billion jackpot. Just for anybody out there that's played, I didn't play.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, all right, guys. Well, look, I appreciate you guys for having me on. It's been a blast. Thank you for letting me rant. And I look forward to the next
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, me too, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
My pleasure, man.
Thanks for coming out. We'll see when we can get Wales back. If not, this was our November mindset. It's a pretty special one. Let's put a bow on it, and we'll see it the first Monday for sure of next month, everybody.
Yep.
Peace.
Sounds good, man. You
Peace.
guys have a great night, okay? I'll chat with y'all soon.
Yeah.